Okay, so we have a quiz that's open right now, and it's 15 questions. It's not that difficult, but I guess it just depends on what your experience is with syntax. There'll be 5 or 6 questions. I'm asking you to identify noun phrases, verb phrases, and prepositional phrases. Those 3 things. Right after that, you'll have a definition of syntax. It'll say like syntax is, you have A, B, C, and D. Just pick the best answer that defines what syntax is. You have another 5 questions that focus on lexical categories. There'll be 7 options. I'll have a word in a sentence, it's underlined. Below, it'll say nouns, adjective, adverb, verb, determiner, preposition, auxiliary verb. So you simply need to identify what the part of speech is of that word. Finally, the last question on the quiz is phrase structure rules, specifically looking at Spanish. I think I gave you guys an example in the previous class about how el hombre leyó el libro blanco, or el hombre or la mujer inteligente. So we looked at Spanish and we were able to figure out that adjectives come after Spanish and English, they precede them. And that is a phrase structure rule difference from English to Spanish. That's the extent of the quiz. That's what it looks like. Now, if you want to review it, quiz to review here and some example questions. You can click here and watch a YouTube video. It'll go over it again, kind of what I just said there. Okay, so today's kind of a free day. I'm going to try to get ahead a little bit and get into tree diagrams. That's kind of where we're going right now. So to finish what we talked about the other day, let me see. Okay, here we go. We'll just look at one more. Let's take a look at Japanese for a minute. Share my screen in just a second here. Here we go, right? Okay, right there. We should put this down here for a minute. Okay, view. Let's see if we can get to 200%, be a little bit better. Okay, so the other day we were looking at different languages, and here is just one more, and it's very similar to Turkish, what we talked about the other day. So in Japanese, we have Kodomo ga hono yonda, Sensei ga hono yonda, Sensei ga shimbono yonda. So then looking at these examples and paying attention to the translations, what is the big difference that you guys can see? There's probably 2 things you can point out here. What is a big difference between English and Japanese phrase structure rules?
Is it noun then verb?
Good. So in this case, if we want to look at it like that, we can say, yeah, we will say, we'll say that. And then English, we will have right there. So we can say Japanese has subject, object, verb, word order. English has subject, verb, object, word order. So in English, we'd say the child read the book, or the teacher read a book, or the teacher read a newspaper. Now, you can probably also see there's some differences with determiners. I think a lot of languages, a lot of Asian languages, they don't have those determiners like a child, just child, book, read. So there are some differences in whether or not determiners are used to mark nouns. So those would be some things to think about there. Okay, let's move on. So it says, in order to understand and represent language patterns, linguists build models of sentence structure just as a physicist builds models of atoms and molecules. This visual representation helps us better understand language development and use. In a sense, creating tree diagrams is a way to directly represent the structure of every basic sentence of a language. Thankfully, we will not be diagramming every type of sentence in the English language. So don't worry about that. We're not doing that. Each tree corresponds to a particular sentence being a model of the structure of that sentence. So the workbook has a lot of practice with diagrams, even step by step. So what you can do, what I recommend you guys do now between now and our next test, the big test coming up, we have to get through pragmatics. Once we're done with syntax and pragmatics, we'll have another pretty big test. You can pick one of these sentences. For example, Susan spoke very solemnly at her funeral, or whatever one you want to pick, and then you can diagram it, and then you can see. I'm not kidding you. It is a step-by-step process. I'll show you exactly how to do it in each step. So, I mean, I get down to the really, really very detailed thing. So Larry slept in his house, right? So you can see step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and then finally we can see the whole thing right there. So initially what I'd recommend is you diagram the sentence and just go to the final step, right? And see how you did. If it looks like, if your diagram is similar to the one you see in the workbook, you're fine. That's it. Now, if it's not, you may have to go back and look at the different steps to see where you went wrong. So that's something that I really strongly advise everybody to begin doing beginning today, is to just do one. Let's do one sentence diagram per day. And if you look into I would do it between now and, let me see, when I'm going to kind of predict when we have our next test. I'm guessing it'll probably be between before Thanksgiving, thank goodness, right? So it'll be the week of November 16, November 18, right in there. So you have a while, and I think the trees are worth 120, no, 60, maybe over 240 points. I think on the next test are just 4 questions, 4 trees. So that, I think that would be really, really good if you guys do that. Okay, so let me just, I'm going to go in, I'm going to open up something without looking at anything in the workbook or anything at YouTube. I'm just going to do some random diagrams and kind of take you through the process step by step, so you can see how to do them. Then you guys can help me out here in a minute. I'll throw some questions out in just a minute, but let's see what. Okay, the first thing is, and I have good news for you here, that the phrase structure rules will be on the test. I'm going to show you in what form. They will be in this form. They'll be just like that. I'm not going to explain what NP or VP is, but as long as you know what all these abbreviations mean, you can use this to help you diagram. Okay, so let's do step by step here. So if I said, well, what happened to the student? Somebody said, well, the student left, right? Okay, so the first step is, we can see with the phrase structure rules that a sentence has to have 2 basic parts to it, a noun phrase and a verb phrase, right? Sounds simple enough, right? It's not so simple. I teach English 3060. I had one of my students in the second paper the student turned in. There were 4 problems. It was a comma splice, it was a couple of sentence fragments, and a run on. That was just the first paragraph. So this student doesn't know that rule. This student doesn't know that a sentence consists of a subject and a verb. So it means if you have more than one subject and more than one verb in a sentence, you have to have some type of what we call coordinating conjunction or subordinating conjunction. It sounds simple, it sounds rational, but you guys, we don't all have that knowledge in our brain for whatever reason. So I'm going to kind of break this stuff down here for you. So let me go back to what we're doing here. So the first step is to figure out where the subject ends and the verb begins. So the student left, where is the end of what we call the noun phrase or the subject? Where does that end?
After student, well, it ends at student.
That's right, right? So I'm going to just use my keyboard here and I'm going to make a little line like that. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that tells kind of what's going on in the sentence. Now the next thing is to put S above where that line is. S means sentence, right? The reason I put it there is because the sentence is breaking up into 2 parts. This sentence is a little heavier in the beginning, right? And then you have one word in the verb phrase. So that would be the first step. The second step is to just label the parts of speech. I mean, you're going to be asked this on the quiz. You had to do it in morphology. I spent a couple of class sessions looking at parts of speech. So what is the?
Determiner.
Good. So we'll say that. What is student?
A noun.
Good. And then and what did I just do? Who knows? Okay, here. Okay, what is left?
Verb.
Good. So far we've done that. Now, the next step is we're kind of looking up here. We have a noun phrase can consist of, we see that it can consist of a noun, right? But it can also consist of all of these things in parentheses. These are all optional elements. So we know that it can include a determiner. So then the determiner and the noun, what do you think that forms? If you look back up here, what does the determiner and the noun create?
A noun phrase.
That's it. So are you surprised here? I'm going to do this. And then we will say the verb phrase consists of a verb and then maybe a noun phrase and a prepositional phrase. So the verb, I just do this. So this is what we call our verb phrase. And then I'm going to bring these things together. So if you know how to do trees, I think of the words, then you can certainly do trees of sentences. I think you guys will do pretty well. However, I'm grading section 4 right now. I had at least 5 students. They didn't do any lines at all. Even when I had the examples on the test, they still didn't do it. They didn't do any lines anywhere. There's no way for me to see how they were separating the word into the root and then it went from that to maybe a noun or to an adjective. They didn't show any of that. Now, a lot of these students, I don't know what's going on. They probably got a lot on their plate. They're really busy. They just don't have time to learn the content. I don't know what's going on, but obviously they didn't pass. But the majority of people know what's going on. Okay, so in this case, when we look at it, let me kind of mark it up. So we can say, first of all, that we have a sentence, right? We have a sentence because we have a subject and a verb. So the noun phrase, it consists of the student, and the verb phrase consists of the verb. So that would be the most basic diagram you could probably ever do. I guess you could say something like Ricardo left, or Maria left, or whatever. I guess that's simpler than this because it only involves two words. But and believe it or not, this particular sentence style, I'm going to make it one of the sentences on the test to diagram. So one of your sentences will be like this. It'll be very basic. So it won't be that difficult to do.
Professor, does the S represent sentence? I'm sorry.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Now let's do this. Now let's take this idea and I'm going to add a prepositional. No, I'm going to add a noun phrase at the end. So we look over here. We know that a verb phrase can have a verb, but it can also have a noun phrase and even a prepositional phrase. So let's see how these things work out as we build it, right? Now, there's nothing different. We do the same thing we did before. We separate it like this, then we label the parts of speech like we did before. We have our verb here. We have a determiner. Then we have a noun. You remember what I said too is to kind of look at, you see where the line is, where I drew the line. So I'm going to put sentence right here, kind of close to that. Now, your diagrams are not going to be perfect. As long as I can read them, I can understand what you've done. I can see you're showing how to describe a sentence visually by constructing a diagram that shows the sentence as it's constructed out of smaller units called constituents, or if you want to be like this, you can call them phrases. We're looking at how phrases kind of work together to create a sentence. Now, the next strategy, when you have a longer sentence, look for the noun phrases first. Now, how many noun phrases do you guys see in this sentence? The student left the classroom.
I see 2.
That's it. If you see 2, you're already you're going in the right direction, right? So we're going to keep doing what we did before, right? We're going to put these 2 together like this. And we're going to put these other 2 together. Can you guys see this okay? It's not too small, the font, right? Is this okay?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, it's
It's
good.
good? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so then we're going to call this a noun phrase. And we're going to call this one a noun phrase. That's what they are, right? Now, so the beginning part of the sentence, we're done with this. We've done what we need to do. We just need to draw a line to sentence and we're finished. But we need to take the verb and show how the verb and the noun phrase are connected. Why are we doing that? If you go back to verb phrases, a verb can consist of a verb, a noun phrase, and a prepositional phrase. In this case, we have 2 things. So we want to show both of those. And here we go with the frustrating things. I do this and that messes up. I go back up here and guess what? It's going to mess it up again. And then I keep doing until I get it where I can put it close enough. And what do you think I'm going to call the verb and the noun phrase? What do we call this?
A verb phrase?
That's it. Exactly it, right? Because we're going back to the basic phrase structure rule here.
Can I ask like kind of a tangent of a question about
Yeah,
this?
Yeah, go right
How
ahead.
would you make a tree with the sentence like he left in a hurry? Really, in a hurry is my question there. I'm not
Well-
sure how you would.
Well, that's a prepositional phrase. We can do that in a minute. We'll do that one. That's a good question. He left in a hurry. How did he leave in a hurry? So what you're saying there, that's a prepositional phrase that kind of modifies the verb and it has what we call an adverbial function to it, right?
Okay.
We'll do that one. That's not a tangential question. That's a good question. What you're doing, you're asking me a question, really. Let's be honest. You're saying, Michael, what happens if we have a verb and then we have a prepositional phrase instead of a noun phrase? That's what you're asking. But we'll get to that. Okay, so now the next part is we just want to show how the noun phrase and the verb phrase together create the sentence, right? So I'm going to go through this and let's start bringing them together a little bit. Something like that. And that's probably good enough. This isn't perfect. It's not, well, it's not exactly symmetrical, whatever. The noun phrase should be at the same level of the verb phrase. It's true. It should be, but it isn't. And that's what it is. And here we go. So things are not going to be exactly perfect when you do them like this. But if you look at it, I can understand what this means. It means that the sentence, it divides into a noun phrase and a verb phrase. The verb phrase breaks into a determiner and a noun, the student. Then the verb phrase breaks into a verb and a noun phrase, right? And then we have the student left the classroom there. Now, then the question is, I'm gonna take, I think, is it Beatrice, the one who asked the question? I can't remember.
About the prepositional phrase?
Yeah. Who was that? Who is that?
That was me, Alexandra.
Alexandria. Okay, got it. Okay, let's see. Now let's do this. What if we do this? How about this? What if we throw the prepositional phrase on the end? We could certainly do that, couldn't we? You guys see that? So let's look at what we would do here. So I think we can keep everything the way it is. And then we have in a hurry. So what's in?
Determiner?
No. Remember you remember about the cloud thing? You can be at the cloud, in the cloud, on the cloud, by the cloud, under the cloud, over it. What are all those words?
Weren't they auxiliary verbs?
No. No, if it's an auxiliary verb, think about it. How can you put an ed on the end of that? End? You can't do it, right? So you can't put the inflectional ing or the ed on the end of in, so it doesn't pass that test. What is in?
Is it a preposition?
Yes. We're going to say that this is a preposition. Let's give ourselves some more room here. You can be in the cloud. A preposition is anything you can do to a cloud. This is a ridiculous definition, but it kind of works. Not all the time, but you can be in the cloud. You can go to the cloud. You can be at it, next to it, below it, beneath it, over it, behind it. All of those words I'm saying are prepositions. So try to use that to help you remember prepositions. A preposition is anything that you can do to a cloud. It kind of indicates the spatial nature of it. Okay, what is a? We know that the is a determiner. What is a?
A determiner?
The same thing. And then we know hurry is a noun. This is a tricky one because hurriedness, I guess, I don't know, but you notice how a is introducing this word in a hurry. So we're going to look at this as a noun. And then we have to group it together. Now, if you have any questions about what we see here, let's go back to the phrase structure rules. A prepositional phrase consists of a preposition and a noun phrase. So I'm looking at that because I see that we have a preposition. So the first step here is we need to group the noun phrase together first. You see what we did there? Now we're not done yet. We need to now get this prepositional phrase. Now, what do we call the preposition and the noun phrase? Together, it creates what?
Prepositional phrase.
That's it. Like that. How do I do this? See if I can do this for a minute. This might be easier here. I've done this in a while. Let me see. Draw, design. I forgot how to do it. Okay, now here. Oh, that'll work. Okay, figure that out. It isn't perfect, but what we're showing now is the verb phrase consists of now 3 parts. It consists of a verb, a noun phrase, and a prepositional phrase. That's kind of what that is. You guys see what we did there? Okay, let's try a couple of other ones here. What do you think you would do if I said the how about that? The test taker completed the exam rather quickly. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. Now, where does the subject end, first of all? Let's do that first. After what word? The test taker completed the exam rather quickly. So where do we draw the dividing line between the subject and the predicate? Anybody?
Would it be completed in the?
No. Not after completed, but where does the subject end? That's my question.
At the test taker.
Yeah, we
Test
have
taker
to,
and complete.
we're going to say that, right? So we're going to say the test taker and then completed the exam rather quickly. Notice what I'm going to do here. You don't have to do this first, by the way, but you can see here that there's a lot of stuff going on at the end of this sentence. So this is going to be a pretty big diagram that's heavy on the end, like the last one was. The last one was very heavy on the end. I'll give you a top-heavy sentence in a minute. Now, the main thing, Ashley, every sentence I'm going to ask you to diagram on the test, it will only be a simple sentence. By definition, it means there will only be one subject and one verb there. So I'm not using any of the fanboys. That means no and, no or, no but, no for, no yet, no coordinating conjunctions. You don't have to diagram any sentences using subordinators. Things like because, although, even though, if, who, that, which. You don't have to do any of that. I'm going to keep things very simple, right? The goal here is to just, this is an introduction into linguistics. We're going to look at some basic sentence styles and learn how to diagram them. That's it. Okay, let's take a look at the. We know what that is from the previous one. What is test taker?
No.
And then what is completed? Notice how it ends in ed and it comes after the subject. What is completed?
A verb.
Good. And we know what the is from a previous one. How about exam? So we can say noun here. Now here's a tricky one. Rather quickly. What are these two words?
Is it an adverb?
It is. Actually, it really is. I'm going to call it, you can just call it an adverb for our sake, but I'm going to call it a degree adverb to be even more specific. So we have a degree adverb, and then we have another adverb. Adverbs can modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. And in this case, that's what's going on. You have one adverb modifying another. Okay, now the next step is we need to group our noun phrases together. Let's see if we can figure that out. How many noun phrases do you guys see?
2.
Good. So let's group those together. So we're going to say the test taker. And this is never going to work. This sentence being, we're going to have to go really, this is going to be crazy. And this is just a simple sentence. So you can appreciate the complexity of our language in any language, right? When you just try to diagram a basic sentence, you're going, wow. But what if I diagrammed a 100-word sentence? Or what if I went to William Faulkner's A Sound and the Fury? I think he's got a sentence in his book that's 507 words. How do you diagram that? Forget it. I don't know anybody that can do that. And there's probably somebody, but I don't know who they are. Okay, so we got the exam. You guys see that? Now, we have rather quickly. Rather quickly, it groups together, but we can't call it a noun phrase. What do we call it? Anybody have any idea on that? I'll give you a tip. If you have two words grouping together, whatever that phrase is, you refer to it by the last word in that group. What am I doing here?
Would it be
Verb
an
phrase?
adverb?
That's right. That's what it is. It's an adverb phrase, believe it or not. So let's see what we can do with that. So we're going to take both of these together. Now, if the last word in the group were an adjective, if I said it is rather hot, right? Rather is an adverb, hot is an adjective, that would actually be an adjective phrase. But we're going to call this an adverb phrase. We will say that. Remember what we have up here. You see where this sentence is. So we begin building it. So the noun phrase, we're pretty much done, right? Now, we need to show how the verb and the noun phrase and the adverb phrase create what? What do they create? What do they combine to create?
A verb phrase?
And that's what we want to show right now. We want to show that, right? How do we do that? We got to start making some lines again. And I'm showing you when you do it this way, it takes time. I'll give you plenty of time on our next quiz to do this. Sometimes you just do the best you can with it, right? I'm going to put without trying to get too crazy here, let's just call it this. We have that. So you see, we can still see what's going on here, right? It's not perfect, but we can see that the verb phrase breaks into a verb, a noun phrase, and an adverb phrase. Then we have to take both of these and finish it off. So we're going to go up. Actually, I'm going to just start going over this way quickly. We just keep going. I go this way until we can pretty much show what it is. There, that's good enough there. Look at that. It got pretty fast after that 2-word sentence, right? It just kind of exponentially, but you guys see what we did here? So in this case, when we read it, can somebody read this to me? What does it mean if you read that? Anybody think you can read that? Read it from the top down. The sentence breaks into or equals, and then just kind of go from there. Can somebody do that?
The sentence breaks into a noun phrase and a verb phrase.
Good. Keep going.
And from there breaks into still that same noun phrase, an additional noun phrase, and an adverb phrase.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's go slower. So let's start with the noun phrase. So the noun phrase breaks into a determiner and a noun, the test taker. So then we're done with that. Then the verb breaks into, keep going.
Then the verb phrase breaks into a verb, a noun phrase, and an adverb phrase.
Good, good. Yes.
The noun phrase breaks into a determiner and a noun, and the adverb phrase breaks into a
Degree adverb.
degree adverb, yes, and an adverb.
That's right. Or you can just say adverb and adverb. But to me, there's a difference between these two kinds of adverbs. The quickly has a lot of meaning to it, but the degree thing, it has really not much meaning at all. I mean, I could have said completed the exam quickly, and I don't see any loss of meaning there, really. You could put for degree, you could say TOO, you could say very, you could say extremely, really, any of those kinds of words you can substitute in there that mean that. Okay, so that's an example. In this case, we have a noun phrase plus a verb plus a noun phrase plus an adverb phrase. Now, how about this? What if I said this? If I said the student in the classroom went to her dorm. Maybe use the word returned here. Okay, how about this one? Now, this is where you're going to go off the cliff. You got to watch out on this one. So, where does the subject end? After what word? If you make a mistake here, it affects everything else. Where does
After
this?
platform.
Yes, exactly. So you're in good shape. So that's the first thing we're going to do is do that. You guys see that? So the student in the classroom returned to her dorm. We're going to say that. So then, like I was telling you a minute ago, you can see where we'll put sentence here, and we now need to start working, building it. This one, it has actually two different prepositional phrases in it. One prepositional phrase is connected to the subject. The other prepositional phrase is connected to the verb. So we're going to show what that looks like. Okay, let's take a look at these. So we have a determiner, we have a noun. What is in?
Prep.
Good.
Professor, above student, you put a D.
Okay, say again one more time, Jose.
On top of student, it's supposed to be a noun or an N for now.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't usually have two determiners in a row. You're right. Okay, and we know that the is a determiner. What is classroom?
A noun.
Good. Let's get this closer. And what is return? Notice it has ed on it. It comes after the subject. What is returned?
A verb.
Good. So we can identify that. What is to? I went to the cloud.
A preposition.
Good. And what is her? Don't say adjective.
Noun.
No,
Oh, no. A pronoun.
no.
No.
Notice how it occurs. Pronouns aren't going to occur before a noun. Pronouns replace nouns. Dorm is a noun, right? So we have to figure out what occupies this slot. I think somebody said it. Say it again.
I said it would be a D.
Yes, good. Yes, exactly. Okay, so we have that. Now, good gracious, what do we got here? Hijo de la. We got three noun phrases here. What's the first noun phrase? Somebody tell me. It's three. What's the
The
first?
student.
Good. So we're going to put that one together first. This one, what's the second noun phrase?
Classroom.
Good. We got another one here. And the
And
third
her-
one.
Her dorm.
That's it. We got 3 of them here. So I think look for those noun phrases. When you get to this step, always look for the noun phrases. There's going to be at least one in it in the sentence, right? In this case, we have 3. So we can do this. We can do that. And we can certainly do this right here. So now we have that. Okay. Now let's try to finish the subject off. So the preposition and the noun phrase together create what?
Prepositional phrase.
That's it. One of my friends would say, Simon.
Yeah.
Simon ese. Yeah. Okay, what do we have here? Let's go up here. You see this stuff? It'll get you going. You'll get a little frustrated. But I'm telling you, doing it this way, it prevents any kind of crossing of the lines. You cannot cross the lines in the diagrams. That totally messes everything up. And there's no way you can cross any lines here. Now, if we can say that this is a prepositional phrase, it's logical to go ahead and do the other prepositional phrase. Let's get that one done. So to and her dorm, the preposition and the noun phrase here again create a prepositional phrase. We're going to show that right now. You guys see what we're doing here? See the logic here? So we're going to get them both done. Let's get them both done. So we have that. You see, this is never going to work. I'm going to have to go down a lot more. Let me go to another page even. Yeah, there we go. Look at this monster. And remember, this isn't really a monster. This is a simple, it's just a simple sentence. It really isn't. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is probably 5th grade level writing right here. I'm not kidding you. This is as simple as you can get, really. Okay, now we can do the beginning of the sentence, right? So the noun phrase and the prepositional phrase together, the student in the classroom create what? Let's go to the beginning if you're not sure. Let me take you back here. So the noun phrase and the prepositional phrase together, it's going to create this. You guys see that? Right here?
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to say there. We need to, it's a little redundant, but we still need to do it. So we got to do this. The other one will be a little easier to do here, but let's see that. So I'm going to go up. Look at that. I can just about do it right there. I'm going to do it right there to get done with it. You guys see what I did there? Any questions? So we have the noun phrase breaks into a noun phrase and a prepositional phrase. It's all part of the subject there. That's what we're trying to show. Now, what many of you do, you're going to take this prepositional phrase and you're going to point it toward the verb phrase, and you're going to lose points on that, but I will give you partial points. But in this case, in the classroom is not connected to the verb, right? It's more closely associated with the noun. Which student are we talking about? The student in the classroom. So in the classroom, it's actually, if you want to get right down to it, it's an adjectival prepositional phrase because it gives descriptive meaning to the noun. Now, to her dorm, where did the student return? And the question is to her dorm. So to her dorm, it answers the question where, and it's connected to the verb. So that would be an adverbial prepositional phrase. So now let's take a look at this one. So we need to finish this one off now. So we have the verb and the prepositional phrase create what?
A verb phrase.
That's it. It's exactly what it is. Remember, I'm asking you guys just a little bit each day, do one tree a day, just one. It'll take 15 minutes, practice it on your computer, not just by handwriting. I want you to get used to doing it like this. Look at that. This is actually very, oh, look at that. I got lucky on this one. Can't get much better than that, can you? Wow. So then we simply need to take both of these things and bring them together. That's it. Do it one more time. It's taking me 5 minutes. Sometimes doing it like this is actually good, even though as boring and tedious as it is, you can kind of see in slow motion how it works. And it makes sense. Some people can see it very quickly. Other people, you may not even see anything at all here. You might even know what I'm doing. Some of you still don't even know what parts of speech are, and that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem. Okay, so you guys see what we did here? And let's look at it one more time. Let me make it a little bit smaller here. Okay, can somebody read that to me? If you're describing the sentence based on the diagram, can somebody tell me what this means? Start from the top. A sentence consists of, and then just break it down from there.
So the sentence consists of a noun phrase and a verb phrase.
Good. So
The
good. So
noun phrase- so the noun phrase consists of a prepositional phrase and a noun phrase.
good.
The noun phrase consists of a determiner and a noun.
Good.
The prepositional phrase consists of a noun phrase and a preposition.
Okay.
The noun phrase consists of a determiner and a noun.
Okay.
And back to the verb phrase, it consists of a verb and a prepositional
Good. Good.
phrase. And the prepositional phrase consists of a prepositional and a noun phrase.
Good. You got it
The noun phrase consists of a determiner and a noun.
right there. So in conclusion for today, I'll just show you one more thing today. I did this over at my blog, and I'm not even going to try to diagram this, but I'll show you in one of my blog posts I did a while back. It kind of relates to syntax. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me show you this. So I was bored, and I went when I was driving to Arizona. We wanted to visit my wife's sister. So I wrote this one. It's called the longest sentence ever written, the TOEFL sentence. Now, it isn't the longest sentence ever written or anything like that, but it gets attention. So I use those keywords, right? So let's take a look at it for a minute. And this is the best I could do. I could not get beyond this. This is actually 250 something words. I think it took me, no, it's 240 words long. It has a Flesch Kincaid grade level of 97. College is 13. So this has a grade level of 97, if you can believe it. Now, you should never write a sentence like this, but I mean, if you read it, the key is, I want to see if can anybody find the main subject and the main verb here? That is my question. That's what you always have to look at when you look at a sentence, right? So I'm going to read it. Even though the author in the reading passage believes that second language acquisition ability declines rapidly at the onset of puberty, a critical time in which the brain goes through chemical and biological changes, the listening passage contends that speakers, whether they are 5, 15, 25, 48, or even past the age of 65, are fully capable of acquiring a language so long as the learners are motivated, which is defined by the speaker as having either intrinsic or extrinsic desires to learn a target language. They have, and when it says they have, it means kind of whether they have, I'm kind of repeating, they have the necessary exposure in that they're regularly getting opportunities to speak, listen, and read the target language for several hours daily over an extended period of time. They have a positive attitude toward the culture of the target language, inasmuch as the learners genuinely want to learn about and interact with the participants in the target language, and they have the cognitive abilities, all of which are supported by an example that the speaker uses of an English-speaking man who, at age 78, acquired Russian, Chinese, and Spanish at such a high level that many linguists all over the globe traveled to New York City, where the talented language learner lived, to interview the elderly man to see what remarkable mental and physical characteristics he possessed that made him such an extraordinary second, third, and fourth language learner, especially given the fact that the man was so mature in his age. That's it. That gave me a headache. So where's
I'm gonna
the,
be honest, Professor. I zoned out listening to that.
you
It's
never
a very
wanted,
long sentence.
it was 240 words long. I mean, most paragraphs are between 100 and 150. So it even kind of violates the norm for paragraphing. But did you guys see this? If you
I
saw
think the
this,
listening passage would be
okay,
the.
yes, that it really comes down to this. That is the heart of the sentence there. Basically, I'm integrating information from a reading and a listening passage. This is more of what we call a summary kind of a thing. But what I'm saying is, you can take a lot of these connectors, things like in as much as, or which, or even though, you can put those things on forever and there can be no end. Now, you guys got to remember, William Faulkner, he wrote a sentence that was more than double this. It was over 500 words. I was trying to see if I could write one like he did, and I couldn't do it. But he got the Nobel Peace Prize for literature. You know, he's admired for his novels and his work and all of those things. But it shows you that the grammar that we have in our language, it allows us to create all kinds of sentences and recombine them, re-explain them. It opens up all kinds of possibilities there. So I think that's it. So in conclusion, don't forget, I just wanted to introduce trees. We'll work on them again. And I'm going to tell you this. This is the truth. Is that the tree diagrams that I posted at the YouTube video in Canvas, these are the diagrams that prepare you for the test. So it's a good idea to look through that video and practice those sentences to get familiar with the sentence styles you're going to see on the test. So that's the tip of the day right there. All right. I think that's it for today. Anybody else have any other questions before we end our meeting today? All right. That's it. Have a good day, everybody. Remember, practice the trees. Practice, practice, practice. Happy Halloween.
Enjoy your day.
Feliz Dia de las Brujas.
Yeah.
Feliz Dia de los Muertos. Well, that will be after Halloween, right? All right. Bye-bye.